Good evening and welcome to our second Artist Talk of 2021. The third Artist Talk of 2021. I'm Janice Cotter and I'm the Gallery Manager at Pomo Arts. As we get started this evening, as always, I want to express my gratitude to our Port Moody Arts Centre Board of Directors, our team that's here, the volunteers that have continually helped us, our funding through the Government of Canada, the Province of British Columbia, and the ever supportive City of Port Moody in the City of the Arts. At the start of the pandemic, the gallery at Pomo Arts had pivoted to digital exhibitions as well as virtual receptions and artist talks. With the gallery open to visitors, we've continued this practice so that you can enjoy the artwork whether you're visiting the gallery or in the comfort of your home when you check out the artist's exhibition page and scroll through their digital gallery. That's on our website. You can support our artists by sharing their exhibitions, their exhibition pages in digital gallery, or by purchasing artwork. We really try and support all of our community artists and exhibiting artists at Pomo Arts. For the past 2 weeks, you have heard the stories from Sonia Wasiak and her exhibition in New Resilience, and Ghislaine Brown-Cossey and his exhibition, Are We Still Together? And this evening, we're joined by our third artist, Mat Holmstrom. I hope you'll enjoy meeting him and hearing about his exhibition, Timeless Pastimes, as well as the stories behind the work. I'm going to slide over so Mat can slide in. So, Mat, I'd like you to introduce yourself to everyone and tell them a bit about the exhibition, your art practice, and then give them a tour of this beautiful exhibition.
Yeah, thank you, Janice.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. I'm going to take off my mask here so I don't sound like Bane. All right, hi everybody. Thanks for joining me this Thursday for my artist talk. I really appreciate that you took some time out of your night to join me. I'm going to do a walkthrough. I know that some of you have already seen the exhibition, but I'm going to go piece by piece here and let you know what inspired me and kind of materials and techniques that I use. So we're going to start over here. This is the main feature wall. This is where my Lush Garden series are. This painting over here is Lush Summer. I used to live right next to the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens on South Granville, so I kind of made it a habit to go to the gardens pretty much every day, sketch outside, paint, collect the names of the flowers, absorb the colors, and take them home as inspiration for some of these pattern pieces. So this one was inspired by flowers found in the summertime at the Van Dusen Gardens. This one was inspired by tropical plants found at the Bloedel Conservatory, and along with Van Dusen, the Bloedel Conservatory and the Queen Elizabeth Park are two of my favorite places to visit all year long. Especially in the winter here, going to Bloedel, it's nice weather all year, so it's perfect. And this piece is also inspired by flowers and plants found at the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens. So the pattern pieces are somewhat inspired by William Morris. I really like the Art Deco patterns, and to achieve the effect that you see, I've been asked a lot in past artist talks how this effect is achieved, and I use a masking fluid. I know a lot of watercolor artists use it. Usually it's mainly used for watercolor painting, but I use it with acrylic and acrylic wash. So take for example on this new piece from Bloedel Conservatory, you see all the dark lines and everything. I'll put the dark layer on first and then use the liquid latex to do all my drawing and all of my loose mark making. And then I paint over top of it. And then I wipe it away, and the final relief painting is there. So it's a pretty unique technique. I use it pretty much throughout all of my paintings since 2018. And you'll see it used in some of these other paintings as we go along here. So down here, I have two small vases that are stoneware fired at the kilns at the Arc, which is where my studio is in East Vancouver. So they're glazed on the inside, that one's glazed on the outside, and this one's painted with acrylic. So now we're going to move over to these. So these are the midwinter vases. I was chatting with somebody about them recently, and I was asked what material is used on them because it's actually a raised finish. So these are fired stone or fired porcelain, and I used a raised coarse alumina, which is pretty much aluminum sand mixed with polymer, and so all these lines are raised up, and then I used a matte acrylic wash to do the very dim colors. You can see on this one there's a mountain goat on the mountain range on that side, so there's an illustrated scene going around each vase. Kind of see with this one too. Some tree patterns and some moths. There's a little raccoon's face in this one. Some other trees. As you can see on every piece up to this point that I've shown, I use a lot of metallic pigments in my art. It's something that I just love, the reflectivity, and the pigments that are out now are just so brilliant. They really match up well with everything I want to make. So we're going to move over to here. So this is my illuminating sculpture. It's called Esprit de Corps, which means unity or solidarity. So around the base crown of the sculpture, there's people linking arms, linking hands, and this is a carved tree stump coming up. There's a tree bark pattern in it. It comes up to a starry globe, and the top of it comes off, and there's a light inside, so the light shines through the holes. And this is probably the most complex ceramic piece I've done up to this point, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So this is a ink sketch from Barnett Marine Park, which isn't too far from here. It's another of my favorite places to visit, especially early in the mornings. So this was done sitting at a picnic table with some acrylic ink, and it's right on raw canvas, so it has that off-white to it. And this is the other in the series. I did 4 total, and these are the 2 that remain. This is Wall Street Park, which is a street right near where my studio is in East Vancouver. You can go to the park right along the trains. Just over the wall there's the trains, and you can watch the trains and the tugboats and everything coming in, so it's quite the view. So I was doing some of the bark patterns and doing some early morning drawings there. This is probably my favorite nook of the exhibition. This is the kind of the space corner. This is the Sugar Maple Dream sculpture. It's also fired ceramic. It's a pretty heavy sculpture. The eyepiece on the top is hollow, and there is a ball hanging inside. There is a story to this piece. In 2011, I was diagnosed with uveitis, and with uveitis, I have to get angiograms once in a while. So they put dye into my body and take photos of the inside of my eye. And with the dye, the retina lights up, and when I see the photos, they have all the gold veins and everything. So I use that as inspiration for the aesthetic on the eye. And then going up the beam is blue sugar maple leaves that spin around and start turning into like a data stream. So that's kind of just about raising to new heights and using your knowledge. And on the base here, I have multicolored sugar maple leaves with a mother of pearl finish. So somebody on Twitter yesterday mentioned that upside down it looks like it could be Thor's hammer, and I never saw that before. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And this is my interstellar vase, or interstellar vessel. It is a handmade fired ceramic as well. I used pearl and interference paints on it to depict kind of semi-abstract, my own interpretation of the cosmos. But up here on the top, there's the International Space Station, so I thought I'd throw that in there. And in the back here is one of my Cosmos paintings. There's a series of 3, and I'm happy to see that sold. So those are actually 3 of my favorite works done on the Saint Armand paper. All of my paper works are done on Saint Armand paper from Montreal, which is it's a beautiful cotton paper. And in so I was 14. I had the opportunity to go to Montreal to do a walkthrough of the paper mill, and I took home a whole bunch of it, and I've done so many beautiful paintings on it. It's amazing. So, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, and here's the little animal section, wildlife. This is my sitting bear. It is stone glazed, also fired porcelain, and a porcelain plate with a blue heron on it. Right now I'm doing workshops at the Shadbolt Center in Burnaby, and there's a heronry there. And so often I'll go and walk along the lakes, and it's just, the herons really amaze me. They've inspired me for a lot of my art. I've drawn a lot of herons, and we'll keep doing that. So. Yeah, so this is my pyrography section. This sculpture is called Sorrow. It is carved and burnt after. This is the first carving that I've done. In 2012, my mother sent me my grandfather's chiseling tools, and he was a wood carver. Both of my grandfathers were carved woods. One of them did duck decoys and stuff like that, and my other uncle did a lot of relief carving, or my other grandpa did a lot of relief carving. And so I got those tools and I bought a piece of wood, and this was my first wood carving. And this is Take My Wind. It is a pyrography piece, so it's burnt right on the wood. I use a tool that's made in Saskatchewan to do it, and it's a time-consuming practice. So usually each winter I'll dive into 2 different wood burns, and that's all I'll do for the year. So. And this, I mean, it's a pretty big contrast from these pieces. This is probably one of my most joyous piece in the room. This one's pretty expressive. I use big brushes, and you can see that I use that same masking technique that I used in the Lush pieces with these metallic marks in the background. The metallic will go on first. I'll put the masking fluid on, and then it's wiped away and the piece is revealed. So I look forward to actually sharing that process more. I haven't done too many videos of it, but it's pretty interesting to see actually. So here's some more of my ceramics. These are the drama vases. They are done with gold pigment. They're fired porcelain, and they're painted with gold pigment and raised up micaceous oxide, which is kind of like a burnt carbon in polymer. And I thought that was a really cool material that was available. And they picked something going all around them. On the front here, this one has a man and a woman cocooned, and that's kind of how I felt all 2020. And on this one, there is a clock tower with maple leaves coming by and a moon scene. A blackberry on the ground. And my second passion in life is hockey. Well, actually all sports, but hockey more than anything. It's art and hockey are the 2 things that really give me some of that joyous euphoria. So these are the hockey player and goalie. They are somewhat inspired by Fernand Léger and how he did kind of festive ceramics with the primary colors. And so these are hand sculpted, built up, and then kiln fired and stone glazed. And yeah, I know that my team, the Oilers, are playing tonight, so I hope they're doing well against the Maple Leafs. So this is my Golden Ears forest bed painting. It was done in 3 different studies. I first started out small when we went camping at the Golden Ears Park, and I guess it's out here. Is it Port Moody, Golden Ears? Anyways, it's also one of my favorite places to visit, and we go camping there pretty much every year. The colors are very vibrant. The tall green ferns are amazing, and you can find a lot of colors out there. So I did a small little sketch, then took it to the studio and did a medium one, and then took it into a big format. So I did a series of 2 paintings at Golden Ears. And this is also done with acrylic, using that masking technique. You can't probably see it in the video too well, but the background is done with the masking fluid and metallic paints. So So there's a lot of detail in the background, whereas on the foreground there's no masking fluid used at all. Yeah. That's it. That's all the pieces. I hope you enjoyed it all. And yeah, I guess I'll welcome Janice back in. I should probably...
I'm just going to stand here and make some questions.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm sure you do have some. Yeah, post them and I'll answer them.
The first question I had is from Rose Cap, and she says, what makes the Montreal paper so special? And I read something you had written about that, so I know that it does have some special qualities.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's all handmade. When I did the tour, so they have one paper that's made with a big machine, but all their cotton fine art paper is handmade. So when I did the tour, I mean, it's hard work. It's amazing that many people are doing it, but it is a really cool environment. It's almost like the Willy Wonka chocolate factory for paper makers, and you go in and everybody's lined up at these big tubs, and they kind of pound the pulp. All the pulp comes from the canal and the offshoots from the fashion industry. So all the paper is made from cotton from the fashion industry. So they repulp it, they sometimes bleach it or dye it, and then they just hang it to stretch. They put it on these big stretcher bars. So when you do a tour of it, you can see all the handmade pulp paper, and they all have different textures, and they're really tough, fine paper. And I think kind of what drew me to it was when I went to see a Marc Chagall exhibition, and they had a whole room of just his paper pieces and his works on paper that were binded into books, into poetry books, and it was really beautiful. And I've started to do that myself, so it's my go-to paper. You should try it, Rose.
Actually, Rose is an illustrator and works on paper.
I know Rose,
so,
yeah. Rose had a show with me at the same time as me at Place des Arts.
That's right, I remember that. Yes, absolutely. I was at the opening.
Yeah, that was a really fun show.
Yeah, it was. So, Shanae Merchant asks, what inspires your shapes for the vases?
Oh, well, I mean, I've done a lot of different shapes. The flat ones, I don't know if we can come back over here and grab it. For these flat ones, it was more about creating a surface. I really do like I guess they are a little bit more Roman inspired in shape, but I was trying to find something that had the surface so that I could do the illustrating around it. If I'm doing more of an abstract ceramic piece, I tend to like it round, and if I'm doing something illustrative, I want flat surfaces. So that's really my kind of rationale behind the shape, actually.
Let's see, we have Callahan Weller is saying that they love seeing such a variety of your work in one place, which goes back to the topic of timeless pastimes. Did you get into that in more detail?
Yeah, well, I'd like to, yeah. I mean, I do a very big variety. This is kind of just the tip of the iceberg here, and some newer works and some older works put together, but I'm always creating ceramics. Like I said, I do pyrography a little bit every year, but with painting, I don't know, I kind of have a process now that it's kind of hard to explain because it is really just my everyday habits. I wake up and I start small. I do my paper works, I get my kind of hot takes out, I do a lot of my loose illustrations and some of my more critical ideas into sketches, and then as I sift through the day and get into my afternoon mentality, I usually am in the mood for landscapes and flowers, and often I'll go for walks and try to capture the brilliance of nature. And yeah, I just think that having a lot of variety is what's always inspired me with exhibitions. In 2007, I went to New York with my mother and my girlfriend, my mother and my brother, and we got to see a very expansive Picasso exhibition, and he had ceramics and paintings and sculptures and everything, and that always sticks with me. That was an exhibition to me, so I aim for that with my own exhibitions.
Danielle asks, how has your art practice changed through 2020?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is, I mean, I know that a lot of exhibitions all across Canada, that was kind of one of the main questions that a lot of artists were asking themselves. How are you reacting to what's going on? Are you putting your reaction into art? Are you approaching it with your analytical mind? And for me, my practice didn't change that much. I kind of am a full spectrum artist, but it didn't change that much. I think that's kind of the beauty of these timeless things like nature walks, like dreaming of space, kind of these things that don't change. And I think that's a big important part for every artist is to start realizing as they age. And I've learned in the last 5 years how grateful I am for an arts practice. The practice is what's kind of created resiliency for myself. It's how you face adversity, really. You got to stay busy and you got to enjoy the things that really bring you joy. So yeah, it didn't really change that much for me. At the Arc, we have the ceramic studios right in the building, so I don't have to go far for that. And yeah, it didn't really change too much. I did miss doing exhibitions. I did 4 solo exhibitions in 2019, and last year was completely dead, so I had a lot of time to make new art, and yeah, overall it was a roller coaster for the first few months, but overall it was a good time to be creative.
I have a question. Now, the piece in the center, part of the Lush series, this is one that you finished just before the show. It was still drying when we needed the photos.
Yeah.
So this was inspired from a trip to to the Blodell Conservatory.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, all the plants are Blodell Conservatory, and actually, like I said, I love it there. I love the birds too. There's so many colorful birds, and I'd actually like to do a painting of the birds sometime. But yeah, this I just finished, and through COVID, I mean, they weren't open for the first 6 months, but then they opened for a bit, and it is such a safe, enriching place to visit, especially through these times. Like it is, I mean, being around animals, being around other humans, even in a safe environment like that. I think it's a very important cultural place in our city, and you should look up the history of it because it's amazing. I think there was 13 brothers who created it, who got the funds together to put it together. So that itself is a pretty big project. So, yeah, very inspiring place.
And I've actually got a question for you. So you have quite a diverse array of art styles and art mediums that you work in, but is there anything you haven't tried yet that you're really looking forward to exploring, or where do you think you're going to go next?
Oh, I know where I'm going next. It's been pretty built up over the last few months. I mean, I kind of, even though I'm talking about these timeless things kind of helping the stir craziness in the studio, I do enter many hours of stir craziness, but within that, you're compounding thoughts, you're compounding what's leading to your next series, and I am very excited with what I'm going to be doing. It's kind of taking all of this together and fusing it together. I'm going to be doing more ceramic, 2D ceramics, more like wall plaques and stuff like that, and really larger works. I would like to fill bigger, greater spaces. I know that's one of my biggest inspirations is doing the show at the Van Dusen Gardens, at the Michael Wright Art Gallery, and Place des Arts, and all these beautiful places is really what inspires me. And I hope to make art big enough and interesting enough to get into some new venues in the future.
Well, Caitlin, your question was timely because Clayton Groom had been wondering the same thing. Now, he also asked what you're interested in working on next in a different medium or a different subject matter. And he said, by the way, I love your floral paintings. So I think you may have answered his question, but if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, and thank you for the floral paintings really are my favorite. I mean, I shouldn't say they're my favorite to execute. I do like doing really loose stuff. I love doing expressive stuff. Usually my abstract series are a lot more expressive, but the command that it takes to do these paintings does kind of give me time to learn about myself. And every springtime that comes around, I need to paint flowers. It is, I realize through the wintertime that you don't, unless it's cars driving by, you don't see color anywhere. You see color in cars and that's about it. And when the flowers start blooming, It's a source of really healthy euphoria. And yeah, with what I'm kind of getting into now, it's hard to speak about because I'm always doing something. I always have pieces drying, I have ceramic pieces drying, I'm glazing something new, but there's kind of always the build up with the artist to find their ultimate. And I've been working on that. How to utilize using my masking fluid with some of my more painterly techniques. As you can see, I have a lot of graphic works, but I also do painterly works. And to synthesize those two, practices is really my goal in the future here. And I kind of started to do it on some of these pieces. I'm looking forward to sharing what's new.
Jillian McMillan asked, where is your studio? Clay studio?
So my studio is at the ARC building in East Vancouver, right at the end of Commercial and Powell. And I do all my ceramics and painting there. We have kilns there and a ceramic room and everything. And I don't use a wheel. We have a wheel, but I don't usually use it. I hand build pretty much everything. But yeah, it's everything's right there at the ARC.
Okay, I have another one here. Danielle said her mother Shelley is also watching and would like to know how many hours it took you to carve the sorrow sculpture. And if you keep track of time with pieces.
Yeah, well, I mean, that depends on the intent of the piece too. With the sorrow piece, yeah, sure, that'd be great. Yeah, with the sorrow piece, that took quite some time, partly because I didn't really like Dremel in, like I didn't chunk out negative space, I really just used the hand chisels. But the wood was probably double the size of this, and I'd say it took, I really don't know. I went back and forth on this one. It did take some time. There was many different sessions, and that's what I mean by it's kind of about the intent of the piece. With a piece that you know is going to take more time, usually I spread out the work, unless there's a deadline, unless I need it for an exhibition or it's a commission or something like that. This one would have taken at least 100 hours, I'd imagine. So it's definitely one of my more timely pieces. Thank you for asking, Shelley.
That fits with the title of the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it is hard. I think that's why also having a day-to-day practice, if you can keep up your creativity and your emergence with your creativity, time doesn't, it kind of falls to the side, you know. Something's done when it's done, and even when it's done, sometimes you just go back into it and change it altogether, but I try not to get into the habit of that. So yeah, I mean, every piece takes different amount of time. I know my finer works like these are probably my most time consuming, these and the wood burns. The wood burns, you have to do many layers, so it's one of those things that, like I said, through winter I'll get maybe 2 done, but that's about it. But I keep a healthy balance of doing expressive, quick stuff and the tedious stuff.
Now, you were talking about spring and wanting to get back to flowers, and I know I've seen many pictures of you sitting on the grass with your sketchbook, drawing and painting in place. So when you're doing your plein air work, are those for studies? Are they future exhibiting, or are they just to do your larger pieces? Yeah, no, definitely. I think the genesis of any idea or any inspiration usually comes outdoors, especially if it's, I mean, even if it's not nature related stuff. Usually I do all my walking outdoors, and it just kind of keeps things airy. But even with these flowers, they are very graphic works, but I will lead up to them doing sketches. Usually I start with ink sketches for pretty much everything I do, including the ceramics. I'll draw them out. I mean, I'm always painting and drawing outdoors. I use acrylic wash to do small studies. I got a lot of sketchbooks filled, so it's kind of more about the process of figuring out the compositions that you like. Because I think when I'm doing plein air, and I think it's like this for even a lot of true landscape painters, is that they do their studies and then they take it back to their studio.
Usually a painting's not completely finished in space. You'd be sitting there for a while, but I mean, you can go back and forth. Yeah, usually I just bring my sketches home and start the mood board kind of thing and see which compositions I like and start building the idea from there. Yeah, it's pretty much everything starts at a sketching stage.
Going back to the Golden Ears piece, you had done, I've seen photos of a piece you've done that's on an unstretched canvas along the same line. And do you want to tell us, it's quite a bit larger. Was that the first piece, and was this the first piece that was?
Yeah, actually, I think they were different
locations?
No, they were the same locations, but different times.
Yeah, Golden Ears Park.
Yeah, the big painting that you're talking about, yeah, I just took out a...
12 feet or something?
Yeah, I think it's 14 feet long. And I just took the canvas out, and we were camping with some friends, Candace and Dave, shout out. And I took all my paints out there, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of bugs embedded in that painting, but the approach to that was very unique. I haven't done a painting like that since. I didn't really have a plan with it. I just wanted to get into nature. I did a lot of walks and kind of got my spirit going, and really just played with color. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was also at Golden Ears Park.
Well, we seem to have quite a few artists watching, and I know there was an earlier question that I didn't get to, and it was asking about what artists inspire you.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, I mentioned Picasso. I think the dynamic elements of Picasso and I guess the bullishness of him is something that I get inspired by in the studio. I mean, constantly. He's part of that kind of Parisian Spanish art canon. And all the artists that I look up to are part of it. That's kind of the colorful art canon, whether it's Matisse or it's, even Jeff Koons now, he does very bright, brilliant stuff and followed that canon of art. And so yeah, Picasso, Matisse, I know Jack Shadbolt. I'm teaching at the Shadbolt Center, and he's one of my biggest inspirations here on the West Coast. And Gordon Smith, and all artists inspire me. Using social media every day, I see just hundreds of artists, and I'm constantly communicating with them too, and we're sharing ideas and going over many different dialogues, and it's very inspiring. And everybody really inspires me, other than that, I do miss seeing exhibitions live. I miss traveling. I miss going to Montreal and New York and places like that to see exhibitions, because unless I'm actively seeking out these people who have influenced me, these people who have shared their rhetorics and their words, and I don't think about them day to day unless I pursue it. But I know that when you visit an art gallery is when you kind of really get the scope of the culture and what the artist is really about. So I invite everyone to come visit this. It's on till the February 15th, so it's pretty exciting, and I'm very grateful for everything everyone's done here. Janice, Rachel, Caitlin, it looks amazing. You curated it beautifully.
Thank you. I do have a couple of more questions. Clayton Broom says, when we can all travel freely, what is the first place you want to go for inspiration? We're talking about traveling for exhibitions and inspiration.
Yeah, I'd like to travel anywhere. I haven't really done much traveling this year at all. I know some people did some road trips and camping, but I was pretty much in the studio most of this year. I think somewhere I'd like to go is back to Montreal. I would often go every year. My mother is an artist out there, and every time I go out, it does liven me up. I like hearing the French language. I don't speak it too much out here. So I'd love to go see my mother and go to the Montreal Museum there. They always have amazing exhibitions. But I would love to go abroad too. I know I went to Paris when I was 13 years old, and the memories are still so vivid in my mind, and I kind of feel like I'm keeping them vivid in my mind until I go again so I don't forget them. So that's one of the places I definitely like to visit, and I know my girlfriend Danielle would love to visit Paris sometime, so maybe.
Ranu Chakraborty is an artist watching who's exhibited here before, and she said that she liked your design and detail. And I know she works in cut paper often, so I know detail is something that's important
Yeah,
to your part.
and I have a lot of dialogue with printmakers and a lot of people who do litho cuts, wood cuts, that kind of work, because my art does resonate with them in that relief effect. Like I was saying, it does come from that masking fluid technique. I kind of developed it, and I kind of think with it now. I really, like I said, since 2018, when it comes to painting, I don't finish a painting without using it, because I kind of really imagine how this relief effect looks. And I know that printmakers have a similar kind of frame of mind, especially when they're doing more graphic work. So yeah, I appreciate the comments about the detail. I know there is some very, very sharp details in some of these pieces.
And Rose Cap said that you made her laugh when you talked about the bugs getting embedded in the canvas.
Yeah, there's a lot of bugs in that one. That's good.
Well, did you want to talk about anything else? Were there any other comments you wanted to make?
No, just thank you everyone for joining in. I think after talking this much, like I said, I had a workshop last night, and my head's really in art right now. I'm having so many good conversations since the exhibition's open. So many people have reached out, and it just brings my spirits up. And so thank you very much for taking your time out of your night to join me. And I'll probably be doing a lot more live stuff in the future, so follow along.
Did you tell everyone that the one painting?
Oh yeah,
Cosmos painting
and she might be watching. And thank you for who purchased the Cosmos painting. That's very exciting. I know those pieces were popular, and I did a series of 3 of them, and that was the last one left. So it's very exciting.
Well, that's great. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening and joining us again on one of our virtual artist talks. We were calculating how many of these virtual events we've done since April 1st last year. We pivoted on March 16th and had everything transitioned to digital and virtual events by April 1st. And since then, we've done, just in 2020, not counting the 3 in 2021, but we had done 31 virtual artist talks, Q&A sessions with artists, our artist session series that we've done, and opening receptions. And I thank you all for your support and for coming to watch us through all the technical mistakes. We've really enjoyed it, and we're very grateful to everyone who's been able to come. And I hope you'll get to come and see all 3 of our exhibitions, and join us when we have our next exhibition opening on February 25th for a mysterious attraction with Pierre Leichner and Bill Westhill. So thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.